People, we are live.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! You're live. Okay, hopefully we're back.
Okay. Here we go, we're live, it's happening. Disco. Here we go, we're live, it's happening. There we go. Disco. Okay. Right, Michael, it's all good. It's all going.
Apologies to everybody for that. There's usually a false start or two. Welcome to VCQ, That Pedal Show, viewers' comments and questions, 20th of April, 2020, the beginning of week 5 of COVID lockdown for us.
Week 5?
It is, I believe. It was a Monday.
You're kidding.
I think so. So Dan is in his hometown of Swindon and I'm in the studio because the studio is near my home, so it's very easy to get to and not at all dangerous, and I'm the only one here, apart from Katherine, with whom I share a house. Therefore, we're not transgressing any guidelines or problematic situations.
That is a Mick disclaimer. We're now going from Mick moans to Mick disclaimer.
Mick's disclaimer. I'm trying to think of something that rhymes with disclaimer. It gets lamer and lamer. So we hope you're all doing okay out there, wherever you are in the world. Who have we got today? Chris Warburton. Hi, Chris. Hurrah, he says. Disco Dan from TC. Sean McKee. We have liftoff. Stu is a lemon. Maestro Valvola pedals. Hi, guys. Mark Keeb 2030. Oh, he's straight in with a question. Should we answer a question, Dan?
Yeah, let's go.
He says, hi guys, from Mark Kieb 1230. Hopefully a quick and easy question to ease you into this week's Q&A. Would a Fender Supersonic 60-watt combo be a good pedal platform amp? Thanks in advance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely.
Great amp. Loads of clean headroom if you want it. Those 2 voicings on the overdrive channel, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Supersonics, man, they're killer.
Yeah, although there have been 2 versions of it over the years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Was there a V1 and V2?
Well, there was definitely a red knob version, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
I like the red knob versions.
Yeah, me too. I had one. With the black grille and the dark grey grille. Yes is the answer. It's Luis from Pedal Pal Effects. Hello, Luis. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for joining us from Venezuela. Dustin Thiessen, we've got someone from Winnipeg. Hello to Winnipeg and greetings to all your fabulous musicians and our great friends who are there in Winnipeg. Mostly the Brothers Landreth. Hey Tone Angels, says Albus Band. Ever been called that before, Dan?
Many times.
Dan, one comment we did have on last week's video was sweet Simpsons poster. Could you tell the story of the Simpsons poster behind your head?
So when Mick and I were in LA a couple of years ago, we were greeted by a gentleman called John Ackenbach, who's a fan of the show, who also happens to be an artist from The Simpsons. So he found out that we're coming to LA and he said that he'd like to meet us, and we met up with him at NAMM, and he invited us to the Simpsons studio for a private tour. So you don't pass things like that up. So we went, and it was just the most unbelievable experience. And we're talking to the other artists and things from the Simpsons, and they showing us how it's all done. And then at the end, John gave Mick and myself a couple of posters and gave us Spider Pig as well.
Spider Pigs hung off the ceiling in the office through there.
Yeah, and did a quick hand-drawn a Simpsonized version of Mick and myself, which was just so. Anyway, got that poster framed.
Yeah, and he signed it, right?
Here, just as a memento of the most incredible experience.
And John also did some custom artwork on a couple of Jam pedals, Ripley Falls. He has a series of artwork pedals from Jam pedals. So if you want to check them out at jampedals.com. But they did a one-off, well, a two-off, one each, of custom artwork on a Ripley Fall for me and Dan, and it was mind-blowing. Just one of those things.
Hang on, I've got mine right here.
I was looking for mine. Mine's in a box somewhere. Michael Striano, we're going to come to your question. In fact, let's come to that first.
There you go.
Yeah. Totally
And
nuts. There's little Dan, little Mick.
Little Mick and little Dan. Oh, wrong way. There you go.
Too cool. Anyway, that explains the Simpsons poster behind Dan. Right, Michael Striano, we said we'd come to your question, so we will be answering questions from the comments section over the weekend. I've actually gone through them this morning, or some of them. The show on Friday was about 12 ways to use the controls on your guitar. Dan and I concentrated on classic guitars, so Strat, Tele, Les Paul, 335, and Junior type guitar, and did a bunch of stuff using the controls. Michael Striano asks, as does, come on, it's in here somewhere. Lots of people were asking this.
Come on, Chameleon.
Come on, I haven't gone through them. I'll find them in a minute.
Okay.
It was basically... how have I lost that then?
You missed my gag, Mick.
What was your gag, Dan?
It was come on, Chameleon.
Oh, nice. You come and go. It was from Tom DeMonk, Oscar Skuljan, Rob Flax. They all wanted to know about the thing we did on the Junior style guitar to get an acoustic type sound. Rolling the volume and tone down on a Junior type guitar. A lot of people were really blown away by that.
Yeah, such an amazing thing.
And so back finally to your question, Michael Striano. How did you set the volume and tone knobs on the Junior to get the acoustic tone? Literally just roll them both down. They were both on about half, maybe on about 4. And lots of people were saying, does that only work on Junior guitars? Can you do it on other guitars? It's only really on a mahogany body classic P90 guitar that I've ever heard it done in that way. I mean, Strats and Tellies will do it. Most single coil guitars will do it for sure. But there just seems to be something about the resonance of the mahogany and the way the P90 cleans up on a vintage style instrument that seems to just do it. Any additions, Dan?
I remember when you first showed me that, and I couldn't believe it. And I raced home and grabbed my Junior, and lo and behold, did the same thing. Not as well as your Collings did. I think I want to check the value of the capacitor on your Collings, but it did it. That something about that P90 frequency, and when you roll off that tone control, and it still has zingy high end in there.
It was
it's incredible.
Somebody at Guitarist that showed me. It was either Dave Burlock, the reviews editor. It was either Nev, who was one of our senior editors, or it might have been Chris Finicum, who is now editor of the Guitar Magazine. One of those three showed it to me on a 59 DC with the 2 pickup.
Nice.
2 pickup.
Oh, thank you, Chris. That's Chris Barrett. Thank you, mate. That's very kind. Says, always look forward to your shows because I always have to go direct, but I'm now using Helix, but I miss my pedals. Yes.
Yep.
Understand. I've got a vlog that's coming out tomorrow about recording direct. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah,
it's been fascinating.
For anyone who doesn't know, Dan and I are both recording songs at home at the moment, which seems like a fairly sensible thing to do given we're on lockdown. And we're both very struggling.
Me be very struggling extra.
Yes. Yeah, I've given up with Ox. Not because it's not great, not because people can't make it sound good, because lots of people clearly can, but I cannot. So, actually, it sounds good. Once it's recorded, it sounds good. But I can't do the bit in between. I just can't connect with playing.
It's the clean tone. So there's a conversation that Rabia and I have on video tomorrow where we do mention about how hard it is to get the IR thing to sound good with clean tones. And with heavy tones, it seems to work really well. But as soon as that, those intermediate and clean tones, that's where really good direct-to-desk software separates the men from the boys. And it's not about crystal clean, straight-to-desk clean tones. It's about amp clean tones.
Yeah, well, I had the 2-rock into the aux, and the clean tone that I know from that amp just was not there. Something in the attenuator was asking the output transformer to do something very weird.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, and that's even using the anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll get into that in the vlogs.
Thank you, Vincent Dyer. That's very kind. Thank you, mate.
And Thomas Clarup. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for your knowledge and laughs. Well, we can definitely do one of those things, Thomas. On the subject of which, we had a lot of very angry people last week with the effects on the voice stand, so they're in the bin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, it was funny the first week, but apparently not the second. So in the spirit of sense of humour failures, I have got rid of all the effects this week.
All right, fair enough. We're going direct.
Yeah, we are direct. No humour here. The Great Dell. Hello, Great Dell. The Great Dell says, can Mick Taylor give a name drop honk to Mick Taylor? Please say yes. Yep. I didn't speak to him for very long. I met him at a concert, bizarrely enough, where Gary Moore was too.
Wow.
And I met him very briefly, shook his hand and said hello. And that was that. I've never interviewed him or anything.
Have you seen him play?
Yeah.
I saw him play years ago at this gig, and Ronnie Wood was playing, and he started to play, and I thought, oh my goodness, he's lost it. It's all over. Then he pulled out a slide and proceeded to break my heart.
Yep.
For like the next hour. Honestly, man, it was at that particular gig, at that particular moment, he would have rivaled anyone in the world.
He is easily my favourite guitar player in the Rolling Stones by a million miles.
It's just wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen him magic and I've seen him less than magic, but hey,
sure.
we all have those days.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. It's incredible.
We all have those days. Ty Roberts, hey guys, greetings from Colombia, Coffee Land.
Oh.
Hello to Colombia. I think I was having some of your lovely wares this morning.
And do decaf.
Greetings from Ireland, says Bagger Tweed. William Turner. Hi, William. William says, any chance of a shootout between the Boss OD200 and the effects it tries to emulate? Are you familiar with the OD200, Dan? It's the 200 series overdrive.
Yes. Yeah.
We sort of deliberately haven't done it because we know what the answer is going to be, if we're honest. If you're familiar with that pedal show and you've ever watched us shoot out a simulation of something against the real thing, the conclusion is always the same, which is, gee, it's really good for the money and it sounds really usable, but no, it really doesn't sound much like the things it's trying to emulate. Is that fair? When it's done digitally, so. But I think
we had a really interesting thing when Rabea came on to do heavy tones, and we were using the Strymon, was it the Riverside?
Yeah.
And because it's got a really powerful EQ and it does that produced thing.
Yeah.
The heavy tones in it sounded really good.
Sounds like a recorded guitar tone.
Yeah. And I think for heavy tones where you sort of it's about manipulating that sound that gives you that sort of knock of the strings, and that basically the sound of the guitar all but disappears and you're into a different thing there.
Yeah.
In that world, they can be really good because you can really manipulate them. But when it comes to, like even when we did the original King of Tone video,
yeah,
and hearing pedals that are really close, but maybe use a, shall we say, less, not as sort of maniacally obsessed over. It's still not the same. When you go to then emulate that, you're adding another level of distance between that and what comes out. But they're great. You get some really great sounds out of them. But you are right that in the end, nothing ever beats an original.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's quite a lot of analog in the OD200 as well. So the digital sims will be as digital sims always are.
Sure.
The analog
Sure.
pedals may well be very close.
Mm.
Yeah, we should do it. We should make the
Yeah,
video.
definitely.
We should make the video. Music is win. Tyler, hello mate. How are you?
Hey.
Computer Dan and Mick, miss you guys. We miss you too, buddy.
Yeah, I miss you, mate.
Hope you're great. Please tell us the key to perfect guitar tone in 3 words or less. I know you. I know you have the. So Tyler wants to know, what is the secret to perfect guitar tone in 3 words or less?
Oh boy. He does this, doesn't he? And sort of springs those questions on you. Okay. Secret to perfect guitar tone. Boy.
While Dan's thinking about that, if anyone is freaked out by the disco lights, I'll happily turn them off. But I quite like them. It's just
I like them.
It's a bit of jolly. I don't
Secret
even
to
have a
perfect
bass
guitar
here, so I
tone.
can play funky bass.
Um,
Play loud always is mine.
Done. Sound like you. There you go. That's existential.
We have a winner. Sound like you. Could be music is win, of course. Could be that, couldn't it?
He might have been angling for that.
Yeah. Geraint Thomas. Thank you, Geraint. That's very kind. Talk me out of either a Tokai made in Japan Les Paul or a Gordon Smith Telly. £1,400 or dollars, I'm not quite sure which. No, pounds. I can't decide. So he wants to know whether he should get a made in Japan Tokai Les Paul or a Gordon Smith T-style for £1,400. The only answer to that is you have to play them both and buy the guitar that talks to you.
Yes.
Because either of those guitars could be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, the Tokais are great. I had no, I didn't have, no, sorry, it wasn't the Tokai. It was it was something else. But I've played enough Tokais to know that there are some absolutely killer ones out there, and they're going for serious money now.
There's been a great amount of variance over the years, though, because there have been some that have been made in different places. You've got the early Lawsuit guitars, which are quite different from the mass-produced, so it's hard to say. Matt Schofield had a wonderful... In fact, one of the reasons I bought my blonde 335, which is at home, is because Matt had a blonde Tokai one that was really lovely.
Wow.
If my memory serves me correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if it's a guitar that's impossible to play, like if you're buying a guitar from overseas. Now you tell me if you agree with this, Mick, but I would say it's easier to get a teletone right
Than a Les Paul tone.
To get a Les Paul. You know, I've played when I was looking for my Les Paul, I played so many, and I just find the ratio of really great tellies is probably higher.
How many $5,000 R9s and R8s did you play?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I played a couple. I couldn't afford an R9 at the time.
Yeah, because pretty much every one
all
of
the
those...
R9s I played were amazing.
Yeah, pretty much every one of those I play is amazing.
Yeah.
R8s and R9s. Not every one, but the hit rate is very high.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually.
And I think it's the same with custom shop Fenders as well. The hit rate is pretty high. And then as you go down, you may well find a fantastic guitar at $1,000. But the hit rate tends to get a bit lower. Is my experience of that. But let's remember that there are no absolutes here. So what might be a fantastic guitar for you might not be a fantastic guitar for the next person. It's such a personal thing about what you're going to connect with. Fair?
Very fair. Very fair.
In conclusion, buy the Les Paul. Simon Mastromateo. Hi, Simon. Hi, guys. I've been dying to ask you this. How would Mick's full-tone tape echo, it belongs to both of us, but anyway, we have joint possessions. How would the full tone tape echo work in an effects loop? How would the preamp work in a nice way? Would it still work properly? I'm going to say to put that in an effects loop would be a terrible travesty of what it's supposed to do. I'm sure it would work. I'm sure it would still sound great, but it's really designed to work with the amp, with the preamp.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Effects loops. The send signal from effects loops is higher, than what your guitar is going to put out.
Depends on the loop.
But the effects loops are not all created equally, and the level from the send varies drastically from amp to amp. So if you've got an amplifier that's got a decent, not crazy high level send, then you run a good chance of it sounding okay. But if if the send level is absolutely cranking, then I think it's going to slam that preamp really hard.
Yeah. So maybe we should try it. Maybe we should try it one day, Dan.
Hang on, how come you've got the red one?
We've got at least more than one.
Well, I got one here.
Yeah, we've got at least more than one. Michael Fors from Sweden. Hi, Michael, and thank you for that. He says, I've been looking at earlier TPS shows. What happened to the red coily cable of Tone and Love? Serious question, though. Any tone difference between a coily cable and a non-coily cable? Stay safe, lads. As you can see, the red coily cable of Love is here. Shout out to Gearman Dude. We better do, hadn't we, Dan?
Yeah, mate.
Got my boots and my white collie cable, made some humbuckers. Sorry, terrible Gearman Dude accent there. Does a coily cable sound different than a regular cable? Yes. If you stretch this cable out and made it this much cable in a single length, it would sound different than the coil. Why, Dan?
Because you're creating an inductor.
There you go. Quack.
Very good.
Oh,
very good.
Yeah. Yeah. So coily cable. If you understand, and not obviously not all coily cables are the same because it depends on the cable material used. This one, bizarrely, doesn't have anything like the high-end roll-off of the white one that I've got, and it's the same length.
Yeah.
So whether this is super low capacitance cable or the coil is different or what, but this one doesn't roll off anywhere near as much high-end as my long Jimi Hendrix Fender one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a strat, spiky sounding strat into a spiky plexi, a long coily cable can be a really helpful thing to have because you lose, the extra capacitance created means you lose a bit of spiky high-end.
Yeah. If it's the core, like Brian May's coily cable, that's part of his sound.
Yeah.
So it's all one big sort of closed loop thing where everything impacts on the end result. You've got to remember your guitar signal is so incredibly sensitive. So, cables and tone caps and all that stuff, it does make a difference.
Fearing injury. Ricardo Lima Pereira. I can't say it. Anyway, thank you, Ricardo, and thanks for that donation too. Hey guys, love the show. Always a delight. Here's a question. What is your opinion on increasing an amp's voltage? And should it always be done by the original builder, or is it safe to have a good enough amp tech to do it?
I'm assuming you're talking about, is it plate voltage you're talking about, or voltage at the input? I mean, it's an amplifier will be designed to run at a certain input voltage. If you've got some amplifier, I mean, lots of them are designed to be able to switch between different voltages at the input, so you can go, different countries. Like even the old Marshalls have got those old selector switches on the back to enable you to go between 120 and 240. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. If the amplifier doesn't have that, then absolutely not. Don't plug in a different voltage than what it's rated at.
No.
But if you're talking about increasing the B plus voltage inside the amplifier, again, don't do it. You take it to an amp tech, or talk to the designer if that's what you want to do. But I'm assuming you're not talking about that, because that's a lot of hassle. And very dangerous.
You could be referring to a bunch of different things. Perhaps if you've got an amp rated at 110 and you want to come to Europe and you need to run it on 240, most modern amps have a way in which you can do that, or a lot of modern amps have a way in which you can do that. You usually need to change a setting, change the mains fuse, and there'll be a safe way to do that. Old amps, you can't do that. You need to use transformers, separate transformers. So
David Downs, thank you very much, mate. That's very generous. He says, guys, I've got great news. Back to tubes and a pedal board from Helix Floor for a year and a half. The volume knob on my guitar is alive again. Have the HX stomp when needed. Cheers from Little Rock. That's really interesting.
Little Rock. I'm a little past Little Rock, but a long way from over you. To quote Leanne Womack.
Leanne Womack and Womack.
Different Womack, but yeah. DJ Ashley, thank you, DJ. That's very kind of you. He says, Mick, I looked up Eastwood guitars. We mentioned Eastwood guitars last week, and saw the Giuliano, a Billy Bow inspired model. My wife is super pissed. Good on you. Killer guitar though, eh?
Awesome.
Vincent Dillay. I can't click. Why can't I click? Well, anyway, thank you, Vincent. I don't think there's a question there.
Chris Porino has asked for tips on getting a fuzz to cut through the mix for leads. Transitioning from overdrive tone to fuzz makes the tone get very compressed and lost in the mix. Of course, it all depends on the fuzz, but stick a clon after it. It's really easy. You'll hear it recorded in my video tomorrow where I'm using the Sunface, and I'm using actually a mix side of the D&M, which is that mid-humped type thing. And boy, oh boy, killer.
Hopefully that answers the question. Adam Walker, what's your opinion on the Vertex Steel String Mark II? Haven't heard it yet. The Mark I was pretty good, so I don't know what he's done to change it, but it'd be good to hear that. Stephen Priest, hi Stephen, says, how much does the tuning make a difference to a guitar's tone? I have a PRS, which I use in E flat usually, but I set it up in E standard recently and it sounds much better. Thoughts? Oh, that is interesting.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. Strat is a different guitar in E flat.
Yep.
It's a different thing. It's not just a semitone lower, even though of course it is just a semitone lower. It becomes a different, everything changes. It becomes aggressive and nasty and brooding, and it's a different instrument. It's a completely different instrument. So I'm sure the same is true of your PRS.
Yeah.
The PRS scale length is something that, because obviously this is all intimately related with scale length. So some guitars will down tune a little easier than others because of the relative flappiness you get in the strings, and of course all the harmonics that are created over a different type of scale length. I've always found the PRS scale length, the 25-inch scale for those guitars that are 25-inch, which is most of them, is a unique sounding thing. In the same way that Gibsons sound different from Fenders because of that scale length as one of the things that makes them sound different, so the PRS sounds different too. And I think it has an effect on tuning, and it has an effect on intonation, and it has an effect on the way you play it.
I like that. Sorry, I'm looking at you on the screen, and when you finish talking, but you keep talking on the screen,
right?
And I'm scared to interrupt. I hear the audio pause, but I look down at you, and you're still going. I'm thinking, I'm sort of, yeah. Right, so EJ Smith, thank you very much, buddy. He says, what's your favourite broken up Fender type of OD? I have a Two Rock Studio Pro, nice, and have a Lightspeed on the way, but I want to try a few out. Lightspeed's such a great shout for that amp. Studio Pro, man, they're killer.
Yeah.
You had one, didn't you? The Pro 35?
I had a 35 and I had a 50.
Nice.
Amazing. Really, really great amp.
So what else? What else would a broken up Fender type thing?
The Crazy Tube Circuits do a Tweedy type one called...
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but that is really, really good.
Yep.
59 sound by Zvex is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Dan Drive Tweedy, if you can get one, is excellent.
Yep.
Basically, any of the pedals that call themselves Tweed type,
Yeah.
I think they always sound good.
Is it North Pedals that got the Tweed one as well?
Yeah, we did that on the show, didn't we?
Yeah, awesome sounding.
That was really good. But yeah, any of the kind of well-regarded manufacturers' take on a Tweed sound, I think works really well for that sort of thing. The blackface is harder to achieve, I think.
Yeah, because you need a certain amount of headroom in the amplifier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sacrilegious statement coming now, but I'm not a massive fan of the broken up blackface sound unless it's got something else with it, like a TS or another overdrive pedal or a boost or something. Princeton,
I agree completely.
Princeton's
but the blackface is such a great pedal platform precisely because of its headroom characteristics.
Yeah.
So you can give it some love and it will retain the integrity of that signal. But unlike a 5E3 design, where it's so on the edge of gain anyway.
Yeah.
But then you give it, you turn it up and it's like the 5E, it's classic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the Crazy Tube Circuits one, and I forget what it's called, it would be my first recommendation.
Right, nice.
Aaron Singh, hello Aaron. Hey fellas.
Hey there.
Back to the tape vids. You commented on the Echoplex not having the MXR Echoplex not having the preamp. MXR actually sells that separately. Have you tried the two together to see how they compare to the Belle Epoque and the Empress? I haven't physically done it, but I would suspect they're pretty much bang on.
Yeah.
The Echoplex MXR or Dunlop MXR, the George Trips designed Echoplex is a fabulous sounding thing. So to hit that with some kind of preamp, I think would work brilliantly well.
He's got magic ears, that guy.
You might even find it works better than the Belle Epoque because it's more variable. More tweaky.
Matt Presley says, how do I convince my direct-to-board band to go back to amps and analog drums? Brackets mostly an excuse to give you $5. Thank you, Matt. Boy, oh boy, there's a question.
I don't know how you do it, but it's going to happen. Over the next 5 years, it's going to start happening again, more and more and more, as people realise how good it sounds. Is my prediction. Because
I like that.
You got to go there to come back.
Yes.
The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom.
Or a nasty rash.
Yes.
One of the two.
I don't know. If they don't want to do it, a lot of people get annoyed. Well, a lot of people won't do it because A, it's more gear to carry around, it's much more hassle, sound engineers start to hate you, etc., etc., etc. So there's loads of practical reasons why they might not want to do it. But I don't know, if you could get them in a room one day and go, hey guys, why don't we listen to this again and see what we feel. I absolutely guarantee if there are good players in your band, and I'm sure you are all good players, the feel will be there. You'll feel it in your balls again, which is what music is all about.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it might be an antiquated... that's the wrong use of the term. It might feel like that at certain times, but the reality is that if you haven't experienced, so I think this is a big part of it. Loads of people just haven't experienced it. But till you stand in front of an amplifier, a system that's really delivering to the point where it enables you to express more free, more you know. What I find with a really great amplifier that you connect with is that's when you have those sort of like unreal experiences that remind you of why you started doing this in the first place.
It's real.
And I've always had that. I've never had that without having a really great amplifier on stage.
I genuinely think it's the equivalent of having a FaceTime conversation with somebody and having a face-to-face conversation with somebody.
Right.
I believe it's that strong. It's probably worth saying that we've all had really bad experiences of it as well.
Sure.
Like where the band isn't great or the sound is poor or you're all playing too loud, and that's just as horrible. I actually left a band because I couldn't hack the volume. And that's me saying that. I love playing loud, but it was just too loud week after week after week, and it was a horrible, destructive sonic assault that did you no good either. So it's not that loud is good. It's that dynamics and analog and feeling sound pressure is good, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Victor Eduardo Lopez. Thank you, Victor. He says, hello, gents. I really love the song vlogs. How do you approach songwriting? Chord progression first? Also, Mick, is your real name Michael?
Let's do the easy thing first. Yes, it is. My name on my birth certificate is Michael. And for some reason, I was called Mickey, in fact, as a kid, like literally from the moment I popped out. So, yeah, I've always been Mick or Mickey. My closest family sometimes call me Mickey. Yeah.
Did you get called Michael when you were in trouble?
Yeah.
Did you have like 7 middle names? Michael John Patrick William Smith Taylor.
I don't know. I'd usually just feel that whatever was hurtling towards me before I heard the words. But yeah. Yes. And the other question was?
How do you approach songwriting?
Oh.
So it's a really tricky question. In my first vlog, I'll use any excuse to tell the story. So I've got 2 of my hero songwriters, Neil Finn and Andy Partridge from XTC. And so I managed to corner Andy one night and ask him about his approach to songwriting. And so there's 2 things that he told me. He said, the more complex the chord progression is, the simpler that your melody has to be. He said, the simpler that your chord progression is, the more complex that the melody can be. I thought that was amazing. Then I asked him about lyrics, because I've always been able to, play a few chords and maybe even play a bit of a melody over it, but I've always struggled with lyrics. And one thing Andy told me, he said, well, when you listen to those chords that you're playing, how does it make you feel? And then I started to talk about it. I says, well, there's your lyrics. If you can express that in words, there's your lyrics. And Dave Gregory used to tell me that Andy's songwriting got to a point where it would all come out at the same time. Melody, lyrics, chords. He'd start to play and the song would come out almost pre-formed.
Yeah.
It's like, just next level stuff. But the biggest thing I find, the guys who can do that really well are just not self-conscious.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. It's getting over the, if you say, oh, I'm writing a song, it sounds so pretentious, doesn't it? It sounds like you have some great inner whatever that needs to come out and it's this great art form. It's not, it's just writing a song. And it's the same as writing a shopping list or whatever else is you have to do. And people who are good at writing songs approach it in that way.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of quite commercial American country music just recently. I've just found Maren Morris, who is this perfect little place between Taylor Swift, who else do I like? Miranda Lambert, and like with just the tiniest bit of Casey Musgraves, but not much. And the songwriting there is just, if you listen to it, it's so cheesy. There's songs called like "Drunk Girls Don't Cry," and "Can You Be My Sugar," and all this stuff, and it's so unbelievably cheesy. But when she sings it and she means it, and it talks about emotions and stuff that people in her world are probably going to feel, it ceases to be cheesy. And I think if you can just have the confidence to say something that either you mean or that somebody else might mean, because that's so much songwriting gets done that is not personal at all. It's from another person's point of view.
Sure.
And then it's about volume, isn't it? It's cranking them out and finishing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the more you do it, the better you get at it.
I've written up probably 8 songs in 20 years, so I'm literally the last person you should ask about songwriting.
Yeah, well, I've written about the same, but they're all half an hour long.
But yeah, just start and finish. Tell a story, put some chords down, and don't treat it like high art, because, until you're a high artist, it's not high art, it's just writing a song.
There's one thing that I have discovered doing this vlog. One of the real dangers about doing music this way is that you get wrapped up in the things that have nothing to do with the art.
Yeah.
You get wrapped up in that chord that didn't quite sit right, or I didn't exactly nail that. I'm going to go back and do 700 takes of that. And it's like none of my favorite albums are recorded like that.
No.
Yeah. But because you're there on your own, and you're so, when you put your engineer's hat on, and you're so focused on getting it to sound right and getting the performance to be exactly perfect, it's like, no. But it seems, when you have so much control over every tiny little facet of the way the thing's going to sound, it's really hard just to let those things go and go, nope, that's it, that's the performance, right, next.
Yeah, I've been struggling with that. In fact, mine is completely stalled because I've got onto guitars.
Right.
And I'm like, nah.
It's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard.
Bass, drums, singing, backing vocals, no worries.
Right.
Guitars, oh my God. Can't commit to anything.
Yes. Yeah. Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Rather long-winded answer to how do you approach songwriting?
Yeah.
Like, just with a load of emotional baggage and unnecessary weight, I think is my answer to that.
Yeah, that's very good. I think Mark Lavinish, thank you very much, mate. It's very kind.
Zach Briggs, I move for a Dan voice vote. Proposal, I would like vocal effects back for Dan in future videos. I'd need to be seconded with another $25. Chat. Thanks, Zach. That's really funny. Okay, maybe we'll bring the vocal effects back. Maybe we will.
Right. Come here, you. Right. Sunul Yapa says, hey, guys, on the loudness, I find I play better when the amp is really, really loud. Less notes, better tone, etc. Any way to recreate that feeling at home levels?
Nope. I've been struggling with that this week, big time. That's one of the reasons why my songwriting vlog has taken a nosedive, is because I just can't. Nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And it's actually been a little bit depressing. So
what happens when the amp is loud? We've got to do this show. Because it. We've touched on it before, but when the amp is loud, the amount of energy that is feeding back into the instrument.
Yeah.
Personally, I think, when things are loud and really happening, I think it's easier to, this sounds really flowery, but it's easier to be more musical, because with an amp that's working like that and really compressing, I find it's really, really hard to be flashy.
Yeah.
And so you've got to lean back into it. And, Phil X has a really good, tells a really good story about when he's with crank masters and that, you play the amplifier, because the amplifier, it won't respond to a million notes. It will really quiet because it has, all those transients come through, no problem. But when the amplifier is cranked, it doesn't work like that. So you end up having to play the amplifier, and you adjust your pressure, the way that you pick, and then you let the amp speak and do its thing. But that, amps run like that, man alive, are responsible for some just the most otherworldly tones.
Well, two things. One, I think your experience and history as a guitar player is important here, because that's the world that Dan and I know.
Yeah.
If you've never experienced that, then it is weird and it's probably harder to play. So there's that. The other thing is, I had a shocking realization this week on that exact fact, was that every guitar tone that I have ever loved that I haven't heard live with my own ears has been made with a pretty loud amp with a microphone on it.
Yeah, right.
No guitar tone that I love has ever been made using a cab sim. Now, that's not to say that some of the music I like probably does have cab sim guitar tones in there somewhere. It probably does, like layered parts and things. But, if we're talking about the music we really love, the music that woke us up to this in the first place, and the guitar tones that woke us up into this first place, it is absolutely always a mic on a pretty loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, look, one of the best guys I know at IRs and cab sims is Rabia, and he still goes to the studio and records his cab. So it's the thing is, IRs are amazing, and what you can do with them, if they're all fantastic, they won't replace a mic on a cab, but they do fit into a spot, which means that you can produce some really great sounds at home. It's not the same, but it doesn't mean it's not good.
No, and I think it's music specific, isn't it? One of the pre-roll ads,
definitely.
One of the pre-roll ads that came up in a TPS show recently was Nolly from involved with the Periphery guys, and great friend of Rabia's, who's known very well for the I can't remember what the brand name is, but a bunch of amp sims, and you hear those guitar tones, and it's like I would say that's the only way to create those guitar tones.
Yeah.
Because it is such a specific thing.
But so one thing that I do mention quite a lot is that you can't replace the process and get the same result. I think, and this is no exception. You can get a great result, but it won't be the same result.
Yeah.
Paul Crane says, "Hi guys, I have a question. S-Chat won't let me type it." Thanks, Paul. You managed to type that. So, okay, weird. Zachary Manzanetti says, "Hi from Sacramento, California." For Dan, now the Gig Rig website says you're out of isolators. I know COVID and staying safe is your priority right now, rightly so. But do you have an idea when they'll be back in stock? They're on the way there now. It'll be any day, literally any day. Thank you, Zachary. That's very generous.
Blaze Nelson, thank you, Blaze. Blaze says, if I use a Strymon Iridium at the end of my chain, effects chain, and I split the signal to either run to the Iridium or an amp, is there anything I need to watch out for? The only thing you need to watch out for is if you have the Iridium in one part of the split, and going to your amp in the other, because the Iridium will introduce some level of latency, which will mean the two things are then out of phase. If they're both if everything is going through the Iridium, then no problem at all. But if you have one half going through the Iridium and the other half not going through the Iridium, then you'll get a phase problem caused by latency. Otherwise, everything through the Iridium, all is good.
Yeah.
Because the phase will be almost, the latency will be borderline imperceptible.
Yes, yeah. Mark Lavinish says, "Hello from Colorado. Will you please recommend a tube power amp for warm, cleanish blues jazzy sound, jazzy blues or blues jazzy, for my Synergy preamp with a Buxom Betty module?" Synergy preamp, interesting.
Mesa 5050, which you can pick up used, awesome. 2020 is pretty loud too. Or if you're completely crazy, the 295, if you can still find one, of the 290. Any of the Mesa power amps are awesome.
Yes.
The Fryette power station would do you pretty well.
Killer.
Yeah, would do a great job of that as well.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that come. Those are the things that come to mind.
Yeah.
The good thing about the 50.
I just have to go. I concur on the Mesa Boogie. I mean, Fryette's great. I think for a dedicated power amp, those old Mesa Boogie things, man, they're a killer.
And with rat gear being so deeply unfashionable, they can be picked up on the used market for really sensible money. So,
Otso Tavernainen, thank you, Otso. That's very, very kind. Thank you, mate.
Okay, Reckless Toboggan.
I like it.
I know a great dyslexic joke about tobogganist, but we can't tell jokes like that anymore. You could probably tell it, Dan. What speaker would make my 65 Princeton reissue, the blackface one, have more of a brown face sound? It's a bit greasy, a bit more greasy in the mids and a bit earlier breakup. So Reckless Toboggan is saying, can his blackface 65 Princeton sound a bit more brown, i.e. a bit more in the mids and earlier breakup? And would the speaker be the best way of achieving that? I don't know enough about... I mean, I guess you could just go for a period correct Alnico type speaker for sure. Might help. But I would have thought a pedal which will change the gain and mid-range characteristic would be an easier, cheaper, and less hassle way to go about it.
Yeah. Speaker will make an absolutely massive difference. If you do have, if there's a speaker out on the amplifier that lets you audition some different speakers, is the best way to do it. Try a bunch of things, because it's really surprising. One speaker might sound rubbish in one amplifier and sound absolutely golden in a different one. It's impossible to sort of steer you in a direction with that. But as Mick said, a different a pedal with a different gain characteristic, that is what you're looking for. You might find it that easier to get closer to what you're after than trying up 10 different speakers.
Yeah, but Jensen makes some nice vintagey type Alnico speakers, definitely, which would be relatively close to the... Yeah, I don't know enough about that, is the truth. Your 2 cents, thank you, your 2 cents. It's Augie from Illinois. Hello to Illinois. Love the show. Question in a question. Would you try a Gibson scale length conversion on a Strat or a Telly?
Ooh.
So Bill,
how does that work?
Bill Frisell has a Gibson scale length Telly, I think. He has a T-style guitar that's Gibson scale length.
Wow.
Yeah, and it would be fascinating to try it and to see what difference it makes.
Well, it's just a different neck.
I don't know if the guitar was built from the ground up to be a 24 3/4 scale length. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but he's the only guy I can think of who plays a Gibson scale length Telly. I would imagine there have been Tellys over the years that are Gibson scale length with all the crossover type things. That's interesting. I wouldn't try a conversion, but it would be an interesting build.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that would be to talk about that question of what, how much is the scale length responsible for that specific brand sound?
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
Well, I mean, I would say it's significant on a Telly.
Yeah.
Jack Kellett. Hi, Jack. I like this question. Hi, both. I've been playing for nearly 12 years with little to no theory backing it up. I'd love to expand my playing beyond the pentatonic, but I'm a little intimidated as to where to start. Any advice? Jack, you're talking about me here. Me and you are in exactly the same boat. I've been playing for a bit longer than 12 years, but I'm exactly the same as you. Very poor theory knowledge, and I wanted to do exactly what you wanted to do. And I'll tell you what I did, two things I did which really helped. Number one was I downloaded Robin Ford's, I think it might be called Chord Theory, course from Truefire, and he talks about the basic theory of the major scale, the diatonic sequence, and how he fits that in around his playing. And I also was very lucky in that Joey Landreth was explaining the same thing to me, and that has expanded my world further than I can ever imagine. I'm not using it, I still can't use it, but it is helping massively to just unpick it a bit. So that would be my direct advice, is to, I think it's called Robin Ford's chord theory, I think is what it's called, and it's on Truefire. Dan?
So, I mean, because I've studied music, and so, but before I did, I was terrified of it. And then when I started studying, I was like, oh, okay, it's really not that hard. So all I would say is don't be scared of it. Jump into it. And here's the problem. The problem is when you start studying theory and you start to try to get that under your fingers and start to, use it, you take 10 steps back. If you've been playing for 12 years, you might be quite an accomplished player and you've developed your feel and you've developed your tone. When you start looking at theory and start to, play changes and, understand, things like altered scales and all that stuff and how all that pertains to the chords that you're playing and the chord that you're going to, you sound like you're 5 years old again. Because
so true.
And that the problem with that is it can be really hard on the ego, because it's not even an ego thing. You're so used to the guitar being this source of expression and this wonderful sort of companion, and then you start doing this stuff, and then it's like all that goes, until you get to a point where it becomes instinctive, and then you can start to express it, and that takes time. So don't be afraid of it. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. See, look, here's my thing. I don't have a natural feel. I don't have that, I can't just play that one note, make everyone go, that's not me. So I think at the very least, what I need to do is be interesting. And that is the way to do it. If you understand, just understanding chords and the way to approach them, you can find interesting things to play and develop your sense of melody.
Nice. I just want to add an addendum on the pentatonic thing. You said that you want to expand outside of the pentatonic. I will make a strong suggestion that you, like me, don't know the pentatonic. So because you know a blues scale, and because you play a bit of blues probably, like me, you think you know the pentatonic? And then Pete Callard did this to me one day. He said, okay, so you know the pentatonic. Play me the pentatonic all over the neck in every position. The minor pentatonic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, literally not a clue. And I start playing a few things. He's like, nope, that note there is not in the minor pentatonic scale. And so if you play like that, if you actually pick it apart, there is massive amount further you can go just by learning minor and major pentatonics properly.
I'm actually going to do a video on the pentatonic scale because there's something really interesting that I think a lot of people miss about the pentatonic scale. And it's, so the pentatonic, so take a minor pentatonic, for example. The minor pentatonic scale is exactly the same as a minor 7 arpeggio except for one note, and that's the fourth. And it's so interesting with the addition of that note as you go up a pentatonic scale. The fourth takes it out of the, if you're playing over A minor and then you hit the fourth takes it immediately out of that chord, and when you hit the fifth you go straight back in. So, and that's why a pentatonic scale, you just go up and down the pentatonic and it works because there is movement within the chord that you're on. Whereas a straight minor 7 pentatonic doesn't, a straight minor 7 arpeggio doesn't have that. you're simply outlining the chord that you're on.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
But I've always struggled coming at it from that angle of modes and scales. I just cannot think that way. The breaking it down into diatonic harmony makes much more sense to me. So where instead of thinking about a scale pattern, you're thinking about whole steps and half steps, and what harmonizes with that.
So intervals.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a scale means absolutely nothing to me, because all the notes in that scale are the same notes as that are in the other scale, just starting in a different place.
Sure.
So that it literally means nothing to me. But pulling melody out of going, okay, well, if you know the major scale, right? Because you've heard it your whole life. And if you break down those, the way that harmonizes, etc., that to me gives you music, because you know when you're playing,
sure,
and you want to go somewhere else, you can start thinking a little bit more about melody rather than trying to remember a scale. This is an utterly terrible demonstration, but it's really helped me massively with note choice and melody rather than thinking about a scale. Because the trouble with the scale is all you ever do is play the scale.
Yeah,
I do anyway.
Sure.
If I'm trying to, like, and play some Dorian over that, right?
Yeah.
Which is just the major scale starting on the second degree. Oh. All I'll ever do is sound like I'm playing a Dorian mode, playing all the notes.
But if you played exactly the same thing as you're playing then, right? And play A, so you're playing an A minor there, right? Little A minor riff.
Yeah.
Right, now play an A minor pentatonic, but just add the major sixth in.
What's the major sixth? 1, 2,
So
3,
so
4,
where you're
5,
so
6,
you know
that one, yeah.
So
That
if
note?
you go to your top E string, right?
Yeah.
So but your normal minor pentatonic shape, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. And so the on the B string we went dun dun dun, right? That note there,
Yeah.
which is this.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's your major sixth. So play your minor pentatonic scale and then stick that note in it, and that's Dorian.
Okay, so that's the way I can feel it. That's the way I can feel it.
Yes.
And I don't need to know that it's Dorian. I just need to know that note there gives me that flavour, right?
Exactly. There you go. You see, you're rocking it.
Yeah, and that's the only way I can feel it. If I start thinking about a scale, it's all gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea with the scales that it gives you the information, but you need to, like, the thing with Dorian is like, okay, Dorian, it's basically the Aeolian scale, the minor scale, but instead of the minor six, it's got a major sixth, and that's your Dorian scale. But it's like knowing, okay, it's a minor scale with a major sixth, so that's that flavour note. Lydian, major scale with a sharp 4.
Yeah.
Lydian, major scale with a minor 7. And so then you know those flavours instead of thinking up and down the scale.
Yes. So it's interesting that you explain it that way, because you're talking about minor 6 with an added this and that and the other. I reckon there might be some element of synesthesia in the way I do things.
Right.
Like the tiniest amount, because I can't, like, whether it's computer programming, Excel spreadsheets, any of that stuff which is just pure data, I can't I mean, this may be a life lie that I've told myself, and I continue to tell myself so that I don't have to do it. I fully get that for the philosophers among you. But if I think about it as purple or blue, or I want this to taste like salt, or I'm standing more on my right foot instead of my left foot. If I think about it in that way,
totally.
then that's where the sound is for me.
Yeah.
Like not in, because if I look at the matrix of the fingerboard, it all just turns to mush.
Sure. But that's the beautiful thing, because we all come at it differently.
Yeah.
And we're all wired differently, You just got to find that thing that works for you. And which you obviously have, because you bring your thing to it, and it's incredible. And if those are things that you want to learn, you just got to find a way that's going to work.
Yeah.
Aaron Singh has asked, basically, he said, I'd like to further my theory whilst in lockdown. I'm self-taught and focused on playing songs and getting gigging rather than learning theory. That's a great thing, Aaron. Now I know my weaknesses there. Are there any good online teachers or learning sources? So what I would say, my favourite online guy for theory, I just find him really inspiring, is Mick, what's his name?
Who?
YouTube guy.
Sean Tubbs.
No. Sean Tubbs is an amazing demo guy, but for learning theory and stuff, his son's got perfect pitch. What's his name?
Rick Beato.
Rick Beato. So, Rick Beato has got some absolutely incredible stuff, and he explains it in a way that's really musical and practical. And he also has a book, the Beato book. Look at some True Fire courses.
Yeah, the True Fire.
They are absolutely spectacular.
Also, check out some of your favourite guitar players. A lot of our favourite guitar players at the moment are having a bit of a rough time of it because they're not gigging, and business isn't great for a lot of them. And you might be surprised that some of them are doing online courses and lessons, and Skype and stuff. So you never know.
That's a great idea. Reach out to some of those guys and see if they'll do a one-to-one online.
They won't all be doing it. But
I might reach out to Pat Martino, see what he's doing.
Yeah, it's endless, isn't it? I think that the question is kind of the same. All of us who can play a bit and who've grown up playing in bands and can learn stuff, all have this gaping, what we feel is a gaping theoretical knowledge hole. It probably isn't. It probably just requires you connecting a few dots that are half already there.
That's exactly right.
And finding the method by which you can connect those dots is the eye-opener. And Joey Landreth, for me, I'm lucky enough to have access to Joey, but the way he explained the diatonic thing to me has changed everything.
Amazing.
Literally everything. So
Patrick Carroll says, M and D, I love both your accents. Oh, that's very kind. Good on you, Cobber. Question on your string change method. Is string locking technique needed, i.e. thread string 90 degrees, crimp over, etc.?
Not for me. I've never done it.
Because my telly's got the vintage slot heads where you put the string into the little head and then the hole in the capstan and turn it around. But I do a little thing where you see it on check out the refret video we did with Johnny, and he shows you how he does the string thing. And I do it that way, where you sort of twist it around and sort of lock it on. But no, I mean, that's the way I do it, but I don't know what difference it makes.
Yeah, I don't, never have, just especially with Fender ones, I think it's already the best locking tuner that was ever invented. As long as you get 2 winds on the bass strings, 3 on the middle strings, and then 4 on the thin strings, and each successive wind goes under the last, that should lock off pretty good. Gibson's, same thing. I don't bother doing the lock thing, even if it's just a through ferrule tuning peg. And I can't remember the last time I had a string slip. So yeah, but there are plenty of people who do swear by the lock the lock tie method, as you say. Plenty of people who swear by that. So I guess whatever you find easiest, quickest, and most effective is probably. We must answer this from Paul Crane. I just got another Laney LC15R. Wow, I haven't seen
nice. They're great amplifiers.
I haven't seen one of those in a while. My other one is in
really great.
Is in lockdown. The first one has a Celestion Gold 10, which sounds great. Wondering what speaker you would recommend for the new one. My knowledge of 10-inch speakers is not good.
No, I think the green 10s are good, aren't they? Because I'm thinking in if you're going to have something that sits to complement the Alnico, it'd be nice to have a ceramic in there. And I think the greenback 10s are supposed to be really good. Yeah,
it'd be a good shout. If you want it to be loud and bright and in your face, the Eminence Raging Cajun.
Oh yeah,
I think
they're wicked.
They're the ones that Matt Schofield uses in his 4x10 two-rock cabs, I think.
Doesn't he use 3 of those and 1 of something else?
Probably. It's like 101 dB, crazy loud. People like different things in speakers, don't they? I tend not to like speakers that have got too much breakup in them. I like big headroom speakers, but a lot of people really like. Although that said, mic on a greenback. Always love a mic on a good greenback.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So maybe like Dan says, the 10-inch greenback.
10-inch greenback, I think would be a winner. Zoso5962, he says, sorry guys, I'm afraid this is all I have left after streaming that pedal show and searching reverb.com while isolating. The other part is going to my overworked mailman. Actually, big shout out to all the delivery guys out there. I see them on our green just delivering all day, every day.
They're busy.
To all the houses around the green. It's pretty amazing.
It is interesting.
And a shout out to anyone on the front line actually out there during this time.
Yeah.
Some really genuinely selfless, wonderful people. It's inspiring.
It is inspiring. It's tough, isn't it? Because when you're sort of told to stay home and not do anything, there's not much you can do really, apart from make sure your neighbours are all okay, do the odd YouTube show. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I'm loving all the music I'm seeing though. So Neil Finn's doing a bunch of songs with his sons, doing a bunch of Crowded House songs, just live from their little music room, and seeing that those songs last night, seeing Taylor Swift just sit down at a piano and play, and it's like, it's so cool. I love the music community when they sort of come together and do stuff like this, and just seeing on YouTube and just people just pick up a guitar and play a song. I love it. I love it because this is it sort of reminds me why people get into music. Certainly why I got to music in the first place is because it's an emotional thing, and it's just really cool. Yeah.
On that, Russian Shaggy Sultanov, thank you, says he wanted to recommend Robbie Krieger. Robbie Krieger of The Doors is doing YouTube videos of playing Doors songs, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for that, Russian or Russian. Who else have we got here? James Shorten. Hi from Ireland. Hi, James. What ideas can you give me for the gain stage of an electric violin? Most of what I try just turns to mud. Shirtler do great preamps for classical instruments.
Really important. So I'm assuming that you'll have a passive shiatsu pickup on the bridge, and you'll need to stick a preamp after that. And after if you've got a good preamp, then anything that can receive a buffered signal, you should be okay to use.
Yeah.
I would suggest they need to make sure that what it's going into has got enough headroom to amplify those frequencies.
So Shirtler is a brand worth checking out. SCHLER, Shirtler. They're from Austria or Switzerland, I think. LR Bags do great stuff in that world because obviously they serve the whole of the bluegrass community. You might find that something as simple as a JHS colour box could do it, but
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
go with something that's specifically designed, and my first two stops would be LR Bags and Shirtler.
Yep, lovely.
Yeah.
Yep. Ed Bromiel, thanks, Ed. It says, thanks for keeping me sane with the videos. You're so kind. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And Will Zakondi says, love your excellent content, guys.
Thank you, Will.
At home, I'm constantly swapping pedals, especially drives. Any tips, setups, and or products that help with wires and cable constantly turning into a rat's nest?
The DIY method is to just use a few cable ties and get them so they physically can't all move apart. Then you might want to look on to something like Pedal Snake, which is a brand that's been around for many, many years. Again, a way of bringing cables together and organising them. And then finally, buy one of Dan's loop switchers and use that as home base and swap stuff out from there.
I find that, so I've done a pedalboard build, which you'll see in tomorrow's video for recording my EP. And I'm actually using a pedal train for it because it's so simple, but it really easily hides all the cables underneath.
Yeah.
So I can see exactly what's going on and I can swap things out really quickly. I don't have to make brand new cables every time and on the floor, it looks really tidy and really neat and it helps with my thought process.
Yeah.
Because I'm in such a small room, I mean, seriously, this room, it's not a box room. This room was a mistake. It was a gap between two walls. They just put a door on. And so I've got to keep things so clean and organised in here.
I'd love to see it.
So, yeah, I completely understand having a bunch of rat nest type cables can be really distracting. So it's as simple as a pedal train. I think it's a fantastic way to really easily hide all those cables underneath.
There you go.
John Pratt says, since wet, dry, wet is so expensive and cumbersome, can you get close enough with a stereo rig and parallel delays, reverbs, or is it not really comparable? It's a different thing. Yeah.
So if what you're really wanting is the stereo effect of things like delays and reverbs, because obviously in a straight wet dry rig you don't get that. You only get mono reverbs and delays and stuff, even though the effect is stereo anyway. Yeah, I would say so, wouldn't you, Dan? I mean, it's not quite the same.
No, as long as you've got a really good analog signal path going through the whole thing and your amplifiers have got enough headroom, then it's great. Look, Andy Timmons runs stereo. It's not a wet, dry, wet thing. He just runs straight stereo. And he has one of the best guitar sounds I have ever heard,
Yep.
bar none.
Yep.
So, you absolutely can do it. You just need to make sure that you've got analog dry through right up to the end of your signal chain on both sides, and the amplifiers that it's going into have got enough sort of headroom and moxie to be able to, handle it.
Yeah. The benefit of wet, dry, wet over straight stereo is you can diminish the effect of being lost in the huge stereo effect field. Because the temptation is you want to run everything really wet. So it might be that with the straight stereo you need to be a little bit less wet in order for the direct thing to work.
Yeah. Oh, apparently Jack Duxbury's on. Jack!
Yellow Truck Productions, thanks for all your videos and good cheer. Thank you, Yellow Truck, that's very kind of you. Jack, nice to hear from you, mate. Hope you're doing okay. Jack Duxbury is a very good friend of ours, awesome musician, producer, all of those things. Keyboards,
Magic keyboard player,
guitars, Just
all the stuff.
lovely human. You
So
can see
good.
him on Anderton's every now and again. And he gave me the best piano lesson I've ever had in my whole life. Which is helping, Jack. It really is.
Nice. Thank you, David Picton. That's very kind, mate. Thank you.
Ricardo Lima Pereira says, I made a mistake earlier. I meant to ask about increasing an amp's wattage, not voltage. What are your thoughts? Cheers from Lisbon. How would you do that? You could fit more powerful valves if the amp will take it. Other than that, how would you increase an amp's wattage?
Yeah, so you've got the power section of the amplifier where all the love and juice is being created. You need to sort of redesign that. I would say if the amplifier that you're using doesn't have enough wattage for you, then you've got the wrong amplifier. It's going to be a lot easier and a lot safer to find a different amplifier.
Yeah.
But if it's not loud enough, look at the speaker that you're using.
Yep.
Because you might find that just having a more efficient speaker,
Yep.
Add another 3 dB and you've doubled your volume.
Yeah. I don't know what you would need to do to a deluxe reverb, for example, to make it take 6L6s.
Yeah, good point. Well, you'd need to change the...
a tech might be able to do that.
Yeah, output transformer. You might need to change the power transformer.
So it's going to be very amp dependent, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. At Douglas. Might be Vat Douglas. Anyway, Douglas. I have a tube screamer, an OCD at 18 volts, and a Soul Food, EHX Soul Food. Dan and Nick, what order would each of you put these on your own board? My amp is an Ampeg VT60 clean, and I play rock mostly.
Okay, so I would have the EHX Soul Food first, followed by the OCD, followed by the Tube Screamer. I'd use the Tube Screamer for a boost. I'd use the OCD for my normal gain sounds, but I'd use the Soul Food as a boost going into the OCD. And if you haven't tried that, try it, because for me, that's where the Soul Food shines. It's wonderful like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's exactly how I would do it. I think Soul Food, OCD, Tube Screamer. I'm tempted to say that OCD last because you've got all that lovely 18 volt headroom.
Yeah.
So if you wanted,
but the thing with the Tube Screamer as a boost, I think is a good shout without trying to change the gain structure too much. If you want to change the gain structure too much, use the Soul Food at the front.
Well, sorry, we're both yawning. Why are we yawning? It's because locked in.
I've been
not doing
trying
anything.
to do this blinking video. God, I'll just say this quickly. My vlog's going up tomorrow, and I know without a word of a lie, the last 4 days, I've probably done between 12 and 15 hours a day editing for a 15-minute video. I mean, I've been recording and all that stuff as well. Oh, man. And I text Mick and Simon this morning saying, I've got a whole newfound respect for the way that you guys make and sound videos so incredible. My videos have always been pretty rough and ready, but every time I see Mick, when he produced his songwriting vlog, and it was just so beautiful and it sounded so good, and I'm like, okay, I've got to up my game. So I worked really, really hard on this, and it's only slightly less crap, but it is slightly less.
Bless him. Anyone out there into video knows how hard it is to shoot a video that looks and sounds good. To the point where I just do wonder if a lot of the videos we made in our early days would really have been better off on an iPhone. Maybe not the audio.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe not the audio.
So. I've gone back and seen a few
Yeah.
recently, and they're great. but it was a different world back then, Michael.
Yes, it was. It was a different world. Now, there was a question earlier, and I'm sorry that I've lost it. We get so many thousands of these things coming in. But the question was, in fact, there's two here. The first one, which also came in from, it was about woman tone.
Woman.
Eric's woman tone.
Whoa, man. Whoa, man.
Clapton's woman tone. We talked about it in Friday's video. And Rory McClellan, Dave Late, Rusty Guardhouse, and somebody else in this comment section here today, and I'm sorry I can't find you, said, wasn't it called, loads of people were saying this, wasn't it called woman tone because of the song American Woman?
Negative.
Yes. Why?
Because American Woman came out in 70.
Correct.
And Woman Tone was talked about by Clapton in 68.
Yeah, that's, I mean, please put us right if American Woman didn't come out in 1970. But Wikipedia told me that it came out in 1970 and Clapton was talking about his woman tone in 68. So no, woman tone does not come from American Woman as far as we can tell. Although we could see why you would think that, because it is that kind of sound, isn't it?
Is that Bachman Turner Overdrive?
Yeah, Randy Bachman, I think, played that, didn't
he? Please give Randy a honk. Because I did a gig with him. Yeah.
That's very cool.
It was very cool. I'll tell the story again, but I was at this songwriting convention and I was playing with this artist who Randy had co-written an album with. And he was in town, so he stopped by to play some songs. And he said, would you mind tuning up this guitar? And he hands me this Gretsch. It was the most incredible guitar, and it had a big muff circuit and stuff built into it. I tuned it up and gave it back to him. I said, that guitar's amazing. He said, yeah, John Lennon gave me that. How cool is that?
Awesome. Sadly, we can't honk John Lennon. Have had two questions about strats, which I will come to now. Lots of people in the comments over the weekend, plus Clinical Fish and KRG54 and Revez 28 want to know a combination of what was the strat I was playing in the video and what are the knobs on it. Okay, Friday's video featured my John Mayer signature strat, which the colour is Cypress Mica, which is a colour he made up. I think.
Of course.
Cypress Mica is kind of like a colour that they kind of may have done in the 60s, but didn't, because it looks like a custom colour of the period. I always think of it as like a green version of charcoal frost.
Yeah, nice.
Kind of. Anyway, it's that.
Get that.
The amps on it are old Fender amp knobs from, I don't know what amp they would have been on, like a...
Brown face.
Yeah.
Are they the brown face knobs?
Yeah, that era. And for whatever reason, Johnny Boy put them on his signature guitar, 2008 limited edition John Mayer signature strat in Cypress Mica. In fact, Dan, I'm going to get it because I'm in that kind of mood.
I love that guitar.
It's a cool guitar. It's got a giant neck on it.
Yeah, I love it. While Mick's getting that, your 2 cents says, clarification, Gibson conversion necks are made by Warmoth and others. They also make baritone necks. You made me wonder after your string gauge show. That's fascinating. Thank you, your 2 cents. That's brilliant.
Here's Johnny Boy's guitar.
Johnny Boy.
I was present at this photo shoot.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, it hasn't come up on my screen yet, so I can't see if...
It's good. It's good.
It is.
You're golden.
Not some horrible reflections. So as you can see, like the Fender amp knobs here and the Cypress Mica, and to commemorate that day, I called one in for Fender for review and never sent it back. Here's how that went. Yeah. I think I got an invoice for it somewhere down the line, but...
I like how you skillfully put John Mayer's face right in front of mine then.
Yeah. You almost look like him,
that.
Dan. Yeah. Apart from the beard and the mop of black hair and the tattoos, you could be his long lost brother.
I could be. But, as Greg Cox says, the years have been brutal.
Taylor Rook. Let's hear from Taylor Rook. Taylor Rook says, guys, what are your guilty pleasure songs? I got two.
Ooh.
Two straight off the bat.
Guilty pleasure songs.
Start a Band by Keith Urban and Brad Paisley.
That's great.
Regularly put that on. And Sugar by Maren Morris.
Okay. The first song from Yngwie Malmsteen, is it Through the Fire and Flames? Or starts with that crazy, for the trilogy album.
You can't be guilty about Yngwie.
No, I can't be, but man alive.
More is more.
How can this be more? More is more.
It's all music. Shouldn't be guilty about any of it, should we, really?
No.
But mine usually involves some ridiculous, vacuous, modern pop.
Yeah, but I love that you love that stuff. It's so cool.
Mm.
Because the thing that, like, the stuff that you like, there is integrity in it. They're all really singing it.
Yeah, they tend to be pretty good artists.
Yeah.
Rihanna, I really like Rihanna. Last record of hers is amazing.
Who is it?
Rihanna.
Oh, right.
Um,
I've got no idea.
Apparently it wasn't Bachman Turner Overdrive, it was the Guess Who.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who pointed that out. Green Mornings. Hello, Green Mornings. What are each of your favourite alternate tunings?
Just a drop D for me. It's the only real alternate tunings. I've got hard enough time just trying to play in standard.
Dadgad is mine.
Literally, I can throw the drop D down and play a bit of Soundgarden, but that is it.
So drop D, Dadgad for me. Yes, and the other question about strats was Rockstar wants to know, what's the black strat you recently acquired, Mick? You said it was the best recreation of a classic strat, but you didn't say what model it was. I do say what model it was all the time, and it would always be in the description text. If you click the description down, there's a lot of information in there. Anyway, so you know that you might not know, but my blue guitar is an American vintage series. So it was traditionally the top of the line before you hit the custom shop. And when Fender first started reissuing, Fender nearly went bust in the mid-'80s, for anyone who doesn't know. CBS sold it. They were in all kinds of trouble. That's why they did the Squire line, all the rest of it. Anyway, when they finally started making American guitars again, one of the first things they did was try and recreate an old Strat, which kind of eventually became the reissue American Vintage series, which has been called a bunch of things over the years. My blue one is from 2000, which was like the closest standard reissue guitars they were doing at the time. In 2012, they completely revamped them. They made the finishes better. They went to town on the pickups, the hardware, the neck shapes, and they made them even more like what they considered to be authentically vintage, but still in the American standard, the American line, not in the custom shop line. That's what the black guitar is. It's a 2012 American Vintage 59 Strat. And as far as I was concerned at the time, that was as close as they'd ever been in standard American production guitars to the old guitars. The ones they do now, which are called American Original, really aren't as close because they do some other things. Still great guitars. But that one in particular, I bought it secondhand, found it on Reverb, pretty cheap. It had been beaten about a bit. And the guy sold it to me, and I really, really like that guitar. I think the Ron Ellis 64s are going to end up in it. Sorry, long-winded answer.
I like it.
Yeah. I talk about strats literally forever.
Rob Flax is asking advice for someone who has never used humbuckers. He's getting his first humbucker guitar soon and doesn't know what will change versus single coils.
Wow.
Everything.
Yeah.
Very different. So tonally, it's a very different experience. So some major generalizations. It won't sound as open, but it will sound very powerful.
Yeah.
It'll have a lot more level and sort of mid-range and sort of punch. The output generally is higher.
You've got to get into a different, and this, whether you're coming from any style of guitar to another style of guitar. So in your case, you're coming from single coils to humbuckers. It might be that someone else is going from humbuckers to single coils, or from P90s to whatever, or from a telly to a jazz box, or whatever jump you're making. The biggest mistake you can do, and this is what I did when I got my first Les Paul, was I put it on and started playing it expecting the same thing to happen that happened when I played my Strat.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Expected the sound to be different. Obviously, that's why I got the guitar. But everything was different. And I just couldn't get on with it. I could not play it because I was asking it to do what this guitar that I had become incredibly familiar with, I was asking it to do the same thing but sound different. And you just can't do that. You've got to let the guitar do what it wants to do, I think.
Right. Wow. That's great, Nick. I really like that.
Also, obviously, if you get something like a very modern Schecter something or other with ceramic humbuckers and compare that with an R9 with vintage correct humbuckers, the differences between those two guitars are probably greater than the difference between a really nice old telly and the R9. So it's not just about going from single coils to humbuckers, it's from what kind of single coils to what kind of humbuckers.
Nice.
Yeah, I can play pretty much any vintage guitar, but I can't play pretty much any modern guitar.
Right.
So how does that work?
Yeah, I'm not going to... I don't know. I think... I mean, of course you can, and you do. I've seen you pick up a... what was that thing at NAMM? It was just like a big letter O with a net glued to it.
That was a bit of wood with a pickup
amazing.
on it. That was a bit of wood with a pickup on it.
That was awesome. But the guitars that connect with you,
Yeah, but I see it the other way around. I see people that are really into modern guitars have no clue what to do with vintage guitars.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not...
absolutely.
Please don't misunderstand me. It's not a better or a worse thing. It's absolutely not. It's a familiarity thing.
Yeah,
And back to the point of switching from one instrument to the other, it's how you've learned to adapt physically, mentally, and sonically for stuff to come out.
Yep. Great.
Have we scared you off enough, Rob? What humbucker guitar are you going to get, just out of interest?
Samuel Talisker Smith. Thank you, Sam. He says, I love the show. Always learning something. That's great. Randy Wilcox has come back with American Woman was the Guess Who, but I also W.A. Randy Bachman.
Oh, Randy Bachman was in the Guess Who, was he?
But apparently he left the band before it was released. So was he playing guitar on it? Cheers, gents. Stay safe. He was the co-writer, but left the band before it was released.
Hope you're doing all right, Randy.
Yeah, I hope you're doing great, mate.
Yeah. Randy's a good friend of ours, lives in New York, and is one of the very many people whose jobs have been significantly affected by COVID. So we hope you're doing all right, mate. And there is some end to this. Ugh. Mark Ebe 1230. Mark Ebe 1230. Did you know Nuno Betancourt was Rihanna's guitarist on tour? I do. Because I interviewed Nuno and put him on the cover of Guitarist magazine while he was on that tour.
Wow. When was that?
Would have been just before I left, probably. So it would have been somewhere between 2011 and 2013.
Okay.
And we got Nuno to do one of those walk-on it was in the early days of electronic magazines, and we would animate the front cover. So if you got the iPad version, Nuno would walk onto the cover and
Oh, wow.
and play. It was really cool, and he just played this awesome, like, really amazing thing. He was so cool. He was so cool. In fact, that's one of the first videos I made. I think I made a little video of him that day, and which was on the Guitarist YouTube channel. But anyway,
That's incredible.
yeah.
Cool.
How are we doing? 6:45, Dan.
Yep.
I guess we should probably think about it, should we?
Yeah.
Steve Richardson, either of you met Elliot Randall?
No.
Pretty sure.
So, Elliot Randall.
Pretty sure I have.
Sorry?
I'm pretty sure I have.
Right. So, Elliot Randall from the Cars.
No. Hang on, that's Elliot Smith, isn't it? No. Elliot Randall.
Hang on. I've got something mixed up in my brain.
Who am I thinking? Who was the guy that was in Steely Dan? Played the Reeling in the Years thing.
Oh, I think you're right. I think that is Elliot Randall.
Is it? Or is that Elliot somebody else? Or somebody else?
No, there's so many Elliots.
Please put us right on our Elliots. And accept this as a sort of brain fart moment rather than a severe lack of knowledge. It is a brain fart moment.
Rufus 1884 says he spent the last 20 years dusting over Gibsons whilst playing a telly. I now own 2 Gibsons, still prefer my telly. Familiarity is everything, it seems. I tell you what, Rufus, what's really interesting is when I started with my telly, the telly is such an unforgiving instrument, and where your body sort of, if you play guitars a long time, your body sort of morphs like around the shape of the Telecaster. It's just this block of wood that sort of sits uncomfortably on you. But once you're there connected with it, I absolutely concur that anything else can feel weird.
Elliot Easton is in the Cars.
Elliot Eastman, that's right.
Justin, thank you for
can you
Justin
honk
Sturrock. No, I can't.
Okay, really interesting story about the first Cars album, just because I've read it. I love his guitar playing on that album. And that was back in the day where you would go into a studio absolutely rehearsed. And he did all the guitar parts on that album with all those incredible solos. Most of them were first take. He went, knocked the whole thing out in less than a day. Just so amazing. Because studio time was so expensive. It's like you would go in there, know your stuff, like back to front.
That's being in the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Totally being in the moment.
Yeah. BV. Yeah, thanks, mate. He says he's met Elliot Eastman. Right, fair enough. So he can honk him.
Tyler Hall, Novo versus Silver Sky. Novo every day of the week, Tyler. For me.
Yeah. Brian Mills says Elliot Randall played on sessions for Steely Dan. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simon Mastro Mateo says, do you guys film enough episodes to fill a couple of months still? And if not, what are your plans to post content? It's getting a bit scary, actually, because we've got this Friday coming is a video where Dan and I put a rig together for each other, which is, I haven't watched it yet, but Simon says it's semi-hilarious.
Okay.
And then the week after that, there's the second show we filmed with Rabia on heavy tones, and he tries utterly in vain to teach me and Dan how to get into heavy tones. And then that's it, we're out. So we're going to have to come up with some ideas between now and then. I've got the advantage of being able to come here, so I can probably film something here. Dan is locked down in Swindon, which he can't do, so...
Yeah, but I've got some ideas, so I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It will be a creative, fun, perhaps not the most
awesomely produced show you've ever seen
version of TPS.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Now, all of you joining us here are our closest chums, and we're absolutely over the moon to have you join us with stuff like this. You guys are the centre of the dartboard for TPS. You're the people that we love having around all the time because you accept us for who we are and what we do. What will happen when we run out of shows and we start doing stuff that's a bit off? will get all the people outside of the centre of the dartboard going, it's much better when Dan's around, or oh god, these guys have really lost their mojo. It'll all be stuff like that. So we need to steel ourselves against that. You guys will love it because like I say, you guys are the centre of the dartboard, but yeah. So we just need to steel ourselves against that and get on with it. It is weird, when you make YouTube videos, you do think about these things.
Yeah.
There was a question actually about the Mesa Cali Tweed that I've been using. Sorry, Mesa Cali Tweed that I've been using just recently.
Taro Takana says, hello boys from the West Country. Hello indeed. Benjamin Washburn, I love you too, Mick. We do. You guys are awesome. And it's a big deal to us that you choose to come and hang out with us like this.
You're our fam.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt about it. Please, where is this Mesa Cali Tweed? Someone was asking me about the Mesa Cali Tweed. I'm really, really sorry I can't find you. Dan Retberg. Dan. Any chance we'll be hearing the Cali Tweed in the studio turned up? It would be great. I wish they'd put it in a 4x10. Do you know if Mesa make a good 410? They always used to. Whether they still do or not, I don't know.
Have a look in the comments.
Fishy Paw says, so sweet, lol. Okay, I'll give it a thumbs up now. I've been watching this thread, Fishy Paw. It's been most interesting. So thank you indeed.
Anyway, to answer the question, yes, I am going to get it here and crank it up. I think really going to like it. It sounds really good at home.
Yes, it looks amazing.
It really does sound good at home. So I'm hoping to turn it up and it's very different from. I'm a big fan of Mesa amps. Have been over the years, and had pretty much most of them. And this is different, and it's very cool. Right, Fabio Morereal. Fabio says, I have a tube driver type of pedal.
Nice.
It always sounds too bright and harsh if I use another pedal after it. Anything I can do to fix that? Dan knows why this is.
Yeah, so because the output impedance on it is very high. It's the same thing with a lot of fuzz pedals. It has a high output impedance. So it's one of those things you've got to be really careful with. If you, quick story, when I got my very first ever germanium fuzz face, and I plugged it into my amplifier and it just sounded amazing. And I put my memory man on after it. I just got the memory man actually and put it on after it. I took it back to the store saying the memory man's broken because as soon as I turn it on, it goes all harsh and tinny. And plugged it in the shop and it sounded perfect. It changes when you put a pedal on after it, like a true bypass pedal, you turn it on, then that pedal becomes a buffer for the previous pedal. And it changes the output impedance. And the output impedance is a really massive part of the tone of that pedal. So there's a couple of things that you can do. You can actually have an always-on buffer after the pedal and shape the EQ of the tube driver so that it works with a buffer. Now, that's the easiest fix. But it does change the character of the pedal. And there's no, that's the design. There's no easy fix for that. But if you can get a buffer after it and voice it so that it still works for you, then there's a solve. And then any pedal that you turn on after that will sound fine because the impedance won't be changing drastically.
Was it a common thing to have them modded?
I don't know. I think there's a strange thing with the tube driver where the most common EQ settings was basically everything nearly off. I think the treble was just on a little bit.
Right. But
it's just sort of modding the tube driver. The only mod that you would do to that would sort of change that is to have an always-on buffer.
Yeah.
So you may as well just have a buffer on after it.
So
but it's the same. You're having the same issues with that pedal as every person that uses a germanium fuzz face or anything that has a high output impedance. So what's happening now? The interesting thing about that is that is part of the sound, if you think about a fuzz face, it has a really low input impedance, right? But that, if it has a high input impedance, which if you put a buffer before it, it sounds awful. So it's relying on that almost impedance mismatch to create the sounds. It's a big part of why they sound the way they do. So, just it's not an easy thing to change, because then you are changing the characteristic of the pedal and changing the sound. But because of the EQ section on those tube drivers, you should be able to place a buffer after it and then shape the tone to make it work.
There you go. And in terms of putting a buffer after it, what would you suggest? A standalone buffer, or just use another pedal?
If you have something like a clon, the clon is not true bypass. The clon has an always-on buffer, and it has a really lovely buffer.
Yeah. So
if you put that on after it and then use the clon to do your boosts, it's problem solved.
When Dan
if you've
says
got
clon,
like a Boss digital delay that you stick after that, again, problem solved.
When Dan says clon, he means clon type pedal, because clearly not everyone has a clon.
Yes, of course.
So a clon clone.
But it has to be the original clon is not true bypass. The original clone is buffered, but loads of the clones are true bypass.
Oh, really?
Yep. So you need to make sure that the clone that you're using, if this is the job that you want, you need to make sure that they are true to the original clon circuitry and have kept it buffered.
There we go. Bruno Cesato Vieira says, does the video with Rabea talk about noise gates and detuning? Also, how would you run a compressor with a gate and high gain? Interestingly, Rabea really doesn't like gates, and he never uses them. So we don't talk about noise gates. Down tuning we do talk about a little bit. Do we talk about compressors? Not so much.
No, I think Rabea has just put a compressor in his rig.
For me,
but he doesn't.
The compressor.
But he's trying one out at the moment.
Clearly it's not down my area of expertise, but the heavy guitar sound to me sounds like end of chain studio compression, right, rather than beginning of chain. Like pre-compression, as it were.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like to me. So if I was going to try and use compression in a heavy context, I'd be thinking about something like an 1176 or an LA2A, somewhere towards the end of the chain. But then what would worry me with all that gain is you just lose a load of dynamic. So a compressor might not be the best thing in that world, because you've got so much gain going that there's no picking dynamic left anyway.
Yeah.
So to add a compressor would just make all that worse, I think. But
yeah, I was having a conversation with someone. I put this little thing. I just had this sort of revelation about gain after hanging out with Rabea, and the more gain that you use, the more precise you need to be. But the more precise you need to be, the less gain that you need. Now, there's a few people said, "Oh, rubbish! The more gain you use, the easier it is to play." But I disagree. And what made me think about that, because if you listen to Rabea play with high gain, and his playing is so ridiculously on the money that you hear the transients that's still all happening. But you've got to remember that things are so limited at that point that every millimeter from the side of the pick that is in the wrong spot, or every time you move your finger, it's all right there for everyone to hear. There's nothing hidden anymore. And and you hear the guys who are incredible at Eddie Van Halen is not crazy high gain, but that guy is so bang on. And anyone that's listen to Eric Johnson with Fuzz, and that's a lot of gains he's got there, and he is so precise. And I think the reason that they sound so awesome is because they are so on the money with it. But that's So for me, it's really making that high gain thing work is actually all the guys that I hear who do it incredibly well, there's a precision that they have to their playing that is incredible. When we went up to Sheffield and went and hung out with
Lee Melliot.
Lee, and his right hand is just unbelievable. He's so accurate and so powerful, and that upstroke that he has. And so all the guys that I hear who are awesome at it are just so on it.
There you go.
There you go. Oh, Cheddar Kung Po, thank you, mate.
Cheers, Dave.
There's no clever joke today. Just thanks for sharing joy during this time. Thank you, buddy.
Good you're with us,
You're
Dave.
the best.
Okay, right. The last question is going to go to Domenico Lanzo, which is a string question. I found 10s on my Strat, too easy on the fingers. So 2 weeks ago, I put on 11s. I love the fact they make me think more about note choice, but I get tired soon. Should I stick with it? Domenico, you must be a plant, because did you know that pedal show has 10.5 half gauge?
10.5s.
I thought it was all rubbish until I tried some, and I bought 10 sets and I measured every top string, and every single one was on 10.5.
Yep.
They were Didarios at the time. So that's one thing. You could go for an in-between gauge, and there are many companies that make the in-between gauge, but we also sell them. Kurt Mangan, they are.
They are Mick's signature set.
Yeah, my favourite strings.
10.5s.
However, without trying to sell you our strings, do also try different brands. So, for example, if you were to play Kurt Mangan 10s and Didario NYXL 10s, you would feel the Didarios are stiffer.
Yes. Yeah, right.
So it might be time to try a couple different brands. Do try a 10.5 set. Didario make them, Ernie Ball make them, and obviously the Kurt Mangan ones, which we sell. So, make your choice. Try a 10.5 set would be my advice to you. That's why I play them, for exactly the reason you play them. Right.
Excellent. All right, buddy. I missed you.
Miss you too, mate.
I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys and girls.
Yes. See you tomorrow for Dan's songwriting vlog.
See you tomorrow.
And then Friday for a rig for your mate.
Lovely.
Cheerio,
Bye,
friends.
everyone. Bye.